right, so we have a page submitted for today's Quick Win Clinic. It's an interesting page, and please take a moment to actually read the page. This is an organization that can truly help people, and so we want to help them. And even your watching of this clinic might help them because there's a difference you can make by responding to what they describe here. Now, I'd like to just invite you to do that, but more importantly, I'd like to have all of us help Daniel get the highest possible response to this offer. And it begins with over 500,000 deaths a year that we can easily prevent. And you know, the goal of a headline, you've heard me say, is to capture attention and convert it to interest. And I won't teach that point. You can find those sort of small teaching sessions in other places here on the site. I want to drill down on something else. The absolute hinge on which this particular page will succeed or not, the linchpin, you might say, of this offer's success is carefully connected to something you hear us talk about, and that is the sequence of thought. Now, I have going to use the page to illustrate something for a moment. In fact, I'll just do it sort of like this. If you haven't heard about the inverted funnel that we teach, you might want to look that up on the site, but people aren't falling into your funnel, they're falling out. So this funnel is inverted because most people that come to this page are falling out. The goal is to get more of them to complete this small funnel. And yes, it's a funnel because it represents essentially a decision set. And there are a series of micro yeses important that you have to get people through. So I'm drawing on this funnel these little micro yeses that help someone move up against the force of gravity, ultimately to what we call the macro yes. So the micro yeses get us to the macro yes. And what's important for this particular moment, and what applies to many of you that are watching right now, is that when someone comes to this page, they are at some juncture here of the micro yeses. What they already know, what they've already seen, read, or heard, what they've already experienced in the mental journey is the crucial piece of information that relates to how we should be communicating now. So Daniel, you have a headline that captures my attention. Over 500,000 deaths a year, and then it says that we can easily prevent. So now I have some interest, and you've done the two key pieces of a headline. You've got my attention, and I have some interest. However, right after that, you ask me to pay. Now, you might stop for a moment and say, oh, no, this is free. It doesn't cost anything. Oh, no, I have to pay. I've already paid with my attention. You've gotten 2 micro yeses just getting me to, and that doesn't include what happened before I got to this page. I'm somewhere on this inverted funnel, and when I arrive here, you've got to get my attention, convert it to interest. However, I have to now move from that tiny micro yes of reading this, probably to a much more difficult micro yes, which is zeroing in on this very small text. I suppose I could ignore it, but I don't think most people are going to take the risk of clicking anything that says install if they haven't read that little bit of text above. So now we've got a micro yes here, and another micro yes here, and a little harder micro yes right here, and then a very hard micro yes right here. In fact, if I were to assign a weight to the nature of these micro yeses, we could say that this one is a 3, and this one is a 3, and this one is a 5 on a scale of 1 to 10, and this one right here is an 8. Now, what gets me through these micro yeses? Only one thing that can be thought of in 2 ways. The message at each component helps me sort of calculate in my head, is it worth it? I don't do any of this consciously. It's an instant subconscious set of actions. But if I sort of think it's worth it, i.e. the risk, whatever that risk is, compared to the reward. For instance, the risk at the beginning is just wasting my time. And I decide, 500 deaths prevent, I'm interested. you'd have more response if you took the word prevent and emphasized it a bit more. In fact, you could prevent over 5,000 deaths a year would be much more powerful, or 500,000 deaths a year. But you could redo this headline and get more power. But the issue really is right here. There isn't enough in these words to get me to take that risk. Now, I know there's more on the page. I'm looking at all this down here. But the problem is, for many people, you're asking me to make the decision right now. And the only thing that would overcome this is momentum, previous momentum. If you are sort of now zeroing in with me, this short session isn't about the funnel or the micro yeses. It's not about the macro yes. It's about momentum. So, if my friend has told me about this amazing opportunity, and I trust my friend, and he might have even showed it to me, and I come to this page, and it's like zoom, and boom, I'm on that button because I have the momentum in my mind, in the thought sequence from what came first before I got here. There no doubt are people coming here who know what this is, but most people who come that do not are not going to take that risk. So now there's a new thing that has to happen, and this is where you're missing. This is where your next performance increase is. For those who don't, but have the sense that they can scroll down, you need to sell me. Now you say, wait, but this is free. Nothing's free. Everything costs. In this case, you need me to be willing to read and study a bit. Look down here. There's a whole set of notes about this. The big sale at this point in the page, right here, is not the install. It is the next key set of micro yeses, and they involve me deciding that it's worth my time and attention to make meaning of what comes next. Now, for that to happen, you need to either way simplify this so I can understand it very quickly, and then layer it and and sequence it so if I need more I can click links and open up and get more, but I don't have to digest all of it. What I'm trying to tell you is you reduce my cost at this point, the cost of those micro yeses. Or you have to message me in such a way as I realize, wow, this is worth taking a few moments to understand. But you don't do that, and I don't fault you, Daniel. This is complex work. This is what we spent 30 years trying to understand in our research program. But here's what you have to do. You have to find a better way than to start with no cost for you, and then we've partnered with, guys, Apple is an amazing company, but we all copy their web pages, and I'm sorry, but Apple's success isn't based on the design of their web pages. I mean, if that were the case, then we should all put lines in front of our retail stores and have people stand outside for 3 days to get our products. Try that in the retail environment. What works there because of high motivation will not work for the average retailer. And guess what? You probably don't even know this is Apple-esque, but I watched the internet change with shifts and fads years after year from the very beginning. When we began our research program, there were no websites. There was just Unix. So we've seen the entire evolution. And what's going on here is you have like a series of boxes with interesting information. But you see that little bit right here, that 1, 2, 3, 4. I could bring that up near the top in a tight, simple explanation that would help me arrive at the most important conclusion necessary before I download this, and that it's safe and it could help somebody. Those are the two things you have to achieve in my mind. But you can't achieve them if you, A, ask me to do this too soon, or B, require me to do all this research without understanding why it would be worthwhile for me to do so. I've been married 30 years. And it took me exactly 1 year, 1 week, and 1 day from my first date to get my wife to say yes. I proposed to her in St. Augustine, Florida. Now, the first night I met her at a friend's house with a group of young people there, I couldn't exactly go up to her and ask her to install me in her life. If I'd have asked for too much too soon, I'd have lost the entire opportunity. Thankfully, I didn't even ask for her phone number. I only asked for the tiniest piece of information, where she worked. And that was a small, tiny micro yes that allowed me to find where she was work, call her at work, and in the old-fashioned way of my father, ask her for a date. And the rest is history. And if you think, well, this is, who cares about your, listen, business, guys, it's a mistake to not understand that what you're doing here is building a relationship. It's not like a relationship. This is a relationship that requires increasing degrees of trust. And if you're going to get the highest possible response, then you need to understand this sequence of micro yeses. And you have to help me arrive at the right time to the right conclusion. And so, for all of you watching, visit Daniel's page and see if we can use this offer to help more people. And then think about these principles and see how you can apply them in your own work.